welcome to No Idea Original Sports. Hey, how you doing today, Theo? What's up, Kareem? How's everybody?
All is well.
Doing pretty good.
Hey, so we had a good week in sports. Let's go through some stuff and recap. I mean, it's been a week now, but let's talk about the Errol Spence fight a little bit or something. Theo, what did you think of the fight?
Kind of flawless, man. I was kind of surprised, him being so inactive before the accident and during the accident. He fought a top tier opponent in Danny Garcia, who was, he's very tough and powerful boxer. And he kind of was like, went through Danny. He kind of beat Danny up, basically. That's what he's done. And this is the first fight I actually see Danny Garcia, I guess, clearly losing a fight, unlike when you fought Thurman and you fought Porter. Those fights was kind of debatable, could go either way, but this was a clearly loss and a clear beatdown.
Yeah. What did you think, Kareem?
Yeah, I would agree with Theo. It kind of sort of went the way I thought it would in terms of like Spence dominating the fight.
Yeah, he called it.
Yeah, I did expect it to go the distance. But yeah, it went the way I thought it would. I don't know if I necessarily predicted, like Theo said, for Spence to be as dominant as he was. I thought Garcia would put up a little bit more of a challenge, but I did expect Spence to come out and beat him. And
Yeah, I agree with you guys. I thought Danny Garcia would probably put up like a little more resistance, be a little bit of better fight. I mean, because I thought it was important for him too. Because again, sad to say, he's a quality fighter, but anytime you start getting losses and stuff, people start looking at you differently. But Spence, for him to come back off an accident and perform the way he did, I mean, he didn't look past Garcia or something. I don't know if they'll be able to make that next fight, but it looks like that they'll probably both fight somebody in between or something. I
do
was
you,
happy. I was happy to see it because in the first couple of rounds, when you look at it after that accident, I'm like, I mean, he could be out here just doing this because he wants the money and still be kind of hurt. But I didn't see any signs of him being any way, shape, or form being visibly hurt. Any
do
ill
you
effects
think
from the
after
accident.
this, Garcia becomes like a stepping stone type of fighter?
I think he still probably have a couple of good fights in him or something. It's just that he's got to get out there and find somebody that's quality, and he might have to win. He might have to beat somebody. I mean, you figure you fought Spence, you fought Thurman, you fought the other guy Theo was saying, and
The
Oh,
Porter.
those two other fights were questionable. This one wasn't. So who else? Who else would you get to put Danny Garcia in there with right now?
Well, right now, it seems like he's the new gatekeeper, so to speak, in that division.
Yeah,
Not unless I guess the top tier fighters move up. I can see him fighting Thurman again. That was a very close fight. But as far as Crawford or Spence, he can't beat those guys. And if those guys stay in that weight class, then Garcia has no chance, win that division or being a man in that division. Maybe he may go down to 140. Maybe you never know. Those fights still available. If he can make that weight, maybe go back down to 140 where he started his career at. But only way Dan Garcia will, I guess, beat a man in 147 is if Spence and Crawford move up to, I guess, junior middleweight.
which
yeah,
seems like a good possibility too. Because I know the last time we spoke, we mentioned like Spence dropping the weight, you know, early. He dropped the weight, I think, a couple of months in advance. So he was walking around, underweight for around 3 months or so.
Mm,
And I think this is a guy who normally walks around at roughly 180 ish. So I could
right.
easily see him moving up, from 147 to 154.
yeah. I could definitely see that. That'd probably be a good move for him. At this point, I think both those guys they probably get better fights at that weight too, or higher paydays fighting at that weight.
Plus, I don't think they have much to prove outside of fighting each other. I don't know if they have much else to prove in this weight division.
No, no, I don't think so. Hey, well, moving on from the Spence fight to college basketball, did you guys see the guy? I think his name's Keontae Johnson yesterday. Unfortunately, he made a great play and then he just passed out. Now he's like critical but stable condition. I mean, seeing that kind of remind me of like all these different things they had, the Hank Gather stuff,
Um,
the sort of
the
different
Reggie
things. I mean,
Lewis.
yeah, it's just I don't know if it were you and you were these guys. I mean, I know everybody's trying to get to the money because he supposedly was the SEC Player of the Year. I mean, how should Florida proceed with that, and how should he go about continuing to play?
For what I didn't see the play. I was watching the game. I kind of turned from real quick and turned back and I heard about it. I know that he recently just beat COVID, so that could be, I guess, COVID, post-COVID reaction, so to speak. Maybe he still has some in his body that caused that from COVID. But I know for sure he beat COVID. As far as his career, or if I was him, I would second guess playing basketball again. To be honest with you, man, 'cause it's kind of scary, man, and it kind of will have a permanent scar in your brain while you're in the court the rest of your life. Whether you play a pickup game or you play college or you still have pro ambitions, that mental scar will stay in your brain. Could affect your ability or how you used to be before that collapse. So I hope he comes through this. We pray for him and his family, and I always say I'll probably second guess ever playing basketball again.
Yeah,
Yeah, I would agree. Um, I don't know. I know he did beat COVID, like Theo mentioned. I don't know if there's anything beyond because I haven't heard exactly what they're saying the cause of it was, whether it was actually linked to COVID or something else. But I think either way, the first thing I thought back to the Hank Gathers and Reggie Lewis thing. Um, and most recently didn't different conditions in terms of he didn't pass out per se, but I thought back to the guy from what was it, Oregon too, who he was going through like the pre-draft
Yeah, the tall
workout
guy,
and stuff
forgot
like
his
that, and
name.
realized
Yes,
he had something going
yeah,
on.
yeah.
Uh,
Austin, something
I
Austin. I
know.
forgot his
So
first name.
and he was like a top player too. So I thought back to those guys and I said, man, this is like you said, a lot of times people want to chase the money, but life or death, I wouldn't risk it, even if it was linked to COVID, not linked to COVID. Plus, I think on top of it, it's definitely gonna, even if he tries to play, hopefully he gets well. But even if he tries to play and come back, I could see GMs and everybody else definitely being scared away from it now.
Hmm.
He's gonna have a hard time, even if he makes that decision on his own to step back on the court. He's gonna have to, um, like, I could see him going overseas maybe because the GMs over here in the NBA, the league is probably gonna be scared away from him. But I just hope he recovers, gets well. Prayers to him and his family, but it's a tough situation seeing that. Um,
yeah.
yeah.
So guys, do you guys think Kentucky is really as bad as this record starting the season is? They've had a lot of bad losses and a lot of losses so far. Kentucky, I mean, you've had a couple of teams that had some really bad losses. But what we see in college are these top flight teams like to the point where Duke. I don't know if you guys heard about Krzyzewski canceling all non-conference games now because they got more home losses this year than they had in the last 10 years or something. So
I heard about it, yeah. And I know he was, of course, which rightfully so, like mentioning um, COVID, right? The
yeah,
pandemic. So I could understand that. But part of it, too, is probably trying to protect that prestige of, of the school. Because, like you say, you can't keep racking up these L's. Um, I think Connecticut, I think I could see like Calipari taking these L's and like kind of like moving on from it. I could see him accepting it, Calipari. Duke, I don't see Krzyzewski necessarily willing to realize, hey, this is my team just isn't that great this year. And granted, there's a couple of different reasons for it, right? Everybody's focus isn't necessarily on basketball during these times. So I think it would have been easier, like for Duke to kind of roll with those punches, and maybe even if you're going to go that route, look to like end your season early, something like that. But to like back out of some of the games and stuff like that, I don't necessarily agree with that. unless it's a health risk. If he has some proof of traveling causes some concerns or whatever the case may be. But yeah, I think getting back to the question of like these top teams losing games, I think a lot of these lower, quote unquote, lower end schools are catching up. I think with Kentucky, some of the one and done maybe catching up with them a little bit, because constantly having to roll in a new team every year of mostly freshmen as your leaders. I think that may be catching up to them. Same thing with Duke, maybe to a lesser extent with one and dones, but I think other teams are just getting better.
This day was coming for Kentucky. Them guys been great for a long time, Calipari. So, this was going to happen eventually. We have a season like this. I will give a good excuse for the COVID. Guys can't really practice. The guys are going weeks without, I guess, practicing or playing ball or can't play ball. There's no gyms open. So that's a very, very valid excuse. But the point matter is it's parity, man. It's parity, man. All these kids could play. All these teams have talent, and the talent has been, I guess, getting evenly across the board, no matter what conference you're in, whether it's a mid tier or high tier, blue bug kind of school. The parity is real even across the board, so it doesn't really matter who's playing who. There's no more upsets in college basketball. But that being said, I like Coach K. Disappointed Coach K's tweet about trying to basically your team's not good, man. I'm disappointed. So now you want to cancel these games. Just suck it up. At least Calipari was meant to listen, blame me. It's on me.
Yeah.
That's what it is, man. But it's parity, fellas, man. Ain't coaching. It's parity across the ball, man. Any conference, man, mid tier, high tier. That's what it is. That we're seeing right now.
Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, think about it this way. When's the last time you seen Illinois? I think they're ranked number 3 or 4 in the country. You got Zaga and Baylor. So yeah, the talent is spread across the board. It's not like some teams are
Missouri
just doing
undefeated.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Missouri undefeated. You got Long Beach State out there kicking butt. I go on and on and on, man. But it's just parity, fellas.
You know what? I think back to North Carolina, because North Carolina's kind of like been in this phase for a little while now, right? They were obviously a dominant school, and now they're, So I think this may be the beginning of that North Carolina phase for Kentucky or Duke, or maybe both, But North Carolina's kind of been in that phase for a little while now.
Agreed.
They've been getting pretty good talent because it's still North Carolina, but they're not necessarily getting those, number 1, number 2 in the nation type of guys anymore. And I'm sure eventually they'll be back up there. But like you said, it's parity. Other teams are getting better, and the talent is just spread out all over the place, which is a good thing.
I credit North Carolina because it looks like this year I'm starting to see. It looks like they might be starting to turn it around a little bit or coming out of it. But I credit the university for not bailing like on Roy Williams, because usually when you get to prestigious school, they get a couple of losing seasons, missed the Sweet 16 a couple of times and stuff, and then coaches start losing jobs and stuff.
Then you see, these guys start trying to go to like the mid majors that are coming up. Like Roy Williams could have easily tried to quit or whatever it is, right, and go to like an up and coming school or whatever the case may be.
Hey, what do y'all think about Patino at Iona?
I think it's a good look for Iona, man. I mean, right now I think they're 1-2 or 1-3.
Yeah.
But as far as Patino, he kind of have a nice little recruiting class for a guy who had a late start when he got hired, man. He got a lot of local kids from New York, New Jersey area, man. And I seen them play their first game against one of the teams. I can't recall right now. But talent is there. There's this transition for Iona. But I think it's a good hire for Iona, and I think for years to come, he will get his players to put Iona on the map.
I think he'll be really good for recruiting local kids.
Yeah, I agree. What about that? I'm thinking of St. John's now. Is Mullen over there still?
No, they got Mike Williams.
They got Mike Anderson from Arkansas, the Arkansas coach.
They seem to be playing fairly well too. They got a couple of good guys over there, a couple of players. They've been playing really well recently.
Yeah, it's good to see those, those type of schools start to, especially like let's say St. John's, start to come back. Because I think back to when they had Felipe Lopez, and I think after that era, I haven't really heard too much.
Yeah, I got one for you, a big one. Look at Rutgers.
Yeah, very good team.
Yeah, that's a good point. Because right now they're up there, right?
I
Yeah,
think Rutgers.
top
Yeah,
25, right?
aren't they the highest rated team in their division? Probably higher than Michigan and Michigan State too, right?
I think so. I know
Mm-hmm.
they're top 25, like Theo
I think
said.
no, I think Ohio State is the highest one, probably or something. But they're
Probably
they're
Ohio
right
State,
up there.
Michigan State. Yeah, probably at
Yeah,
least second or third best team in that conference for sure. They're
yeah,
playing very well, and the best player is Ron Harper Jr. Man, he could ball out. I don't even heard of
yeah,
him, but
yeah.
he
Yeah.
could play. Man, he's definitely a pro prospect.
Yep. Hey, what do you guys think of Florida in college football losing to LSU? I
I
think I
didn't
think that takes them out of that playoffs definitely. That lost to LSU.
I didn't really I didn't catch it. I didn't even realize that they lost, but um, I don't know. In general, it's just been a weird year in sports. you know,
Right.
I mean,
yeah,
I noticed in the last couple of days, a lot of the college football coaches have been getting fired. They just been firing college football coaches left and right the last couple of days. I mean, to some extent, when I look at a time like this, it's almost like these might have been guys you wanted to fire, but because of COVID and the records, it actually helps them with the idea of firing people right now.
it's
Mm.
kind of like a convenient excuse.
Yeah,
Even though you would think the opposite, like given these circumstances, right? You would think they would be a little more lenient and say, all right, yeah, the players couldn't prepare properly, neither could the coaching staff, or whatever the case may be, due to the pandemic, and be a little more lenient. But yeah, it seems to have the opposite effect these days.
Yeah, Arizona just fired Kevin Sumlin, the old coach from Texas A&M.
yeah.
I think Auburn just fired their coaches, but these guys are in a microwave field, microwave sports field, man. We hire these coaches doing instant gratification, start winning immediately. They don't want no, take time to build and create a culture no more. So it's kind of tough being a head coach, whether it's football or basketball, whether it's pro or college right now. It's kind of tough, man.
Yeah, they fired Lovey Smith today.
No way.
Yep, yeah, Illinois fired
Wow.
Lovey Smith. So
Illinois?
yeah,
But wow.
you
Wow.
like what Illinois?
I
You
mean,
like what are they?
Illinois hasn't been good since I was in my early teens, man. When Cordell Stewart was playing Colorado, I was 14 years old. I'm about to be 50 in 10 months, man. Like, they've been irrelevant for a long time. Haven't been good in a long time. I don't get that, man.
Yeah, it's,
I don't get
it's
that.
it's not like they bringing in major recruits and stuff to help them out, and they expected to go for the national championship.
Right,
I
right.
think they were maybe like a slightly under 500 or something, or maybe 3-5 or something. So they decided to cut ties with him.
Yeah, that's tough, man. I'm sorry to hear that. That's tough, man. So who are they going to hire, Illinois? For them to come back on the map, man, they have to hire somebody who's young. I guess a guy who have a very crafty offense or defense. You can't hire an old guy to take over Illinois, man. Hire somebody young, nobody don't see on the map, unnoticed. Give him a shot, and hopefully, when you hire him, the team or the program gets put on the map again.
I can see them trying to hire like some kind of NFL assistant or something, somebody who just wants a shot at being a head coach or something like that.
Yeah, I think if you like the firing is only the beginning of the puzzle. It's for these schools, these professional teams. It's nice to move on, but you got to have a plan. So I'm hoping that they have a plan in place.
Mm.
Like you said, I could easily see them trying to get like an assistant, and give them a shot, maybe.
I think that's one of the problems with sports in general. Like as fans, we do want to see people get rid of coaches and stuff like that when they're not performing. But sometimes you got to think about who you're going to replace the guy with or something like. We're going to fire this guy and put who in. Well, some guys just need to be flat out fired, like Adam Gase.
Right,
Yeah, he needs to be flat out fired. It doesn't make a difference who they
right.
replace him with. Does they, they can replace him with
That's a good
anybody.
one.
Yeah,
Hmm.
but some guys, like Auburn fired Gus Malzahn. Who they going to replace him with? You know? So
Bo
that's gonna be
Jackson.
yeah. It'll be have to exactly. It'll have to be somebody. Yeah, you're right. It'll have to be somebody at that level that the whole community respects him or something.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
Definitely, definitely. So I remember when we talked a while ago. We were talking about who at the time were NFL sleepers and who were possible MVP candidates and stuff. Now we're a little bit further along in the season. Who do we think is an MVP candidate now in the NFL?
I'm still rolling with
It's a
Mahomes.
little tougher.
Yeah,
Not too many.
I'm still going with Mahomes, even though like Russell Wilson has been making a comeback. Right, he's been playing really well recently. But for me, still Mahomes.
Yeah, I agree, man. This is definitely Mahomes' trophy, man, for sure. He's the man. He's the MVP. Nobody else, man.
Yeah, it's a lot of guys that started off strong, and then I don't know what happened. I mean, who I think they might get? I don't think they'll give it to him, but who has a shot if they wouldn't have lost these last couple of games? Kyler Murray. Kyler Murray had a shot. They were
Yeah,
yeah, he had a
Yeah,
shot, but
yeah, he started out well. What about
yeah.
Aaron Rodgers?
he's always in the conversation.
Yeah,
That's a good one.
yeah, yeah. He's a guy I could see them giving it to.
Right. If
Yeah,
they keep winning, y'all can see that too as well. That's a good one. That's a good
yeah.
one, man.
So looking at the teams, who do we see as possible? We know we got a good idea of the playoffs, but who do we see as Super Bowl caliber teams right now?
In the East or NFC or the
Let's
AFC?
go NFC first.
Well, like William said, Green Bay is there for sure.
Yeah.
The Saints, even though they're getting the butt kicked right now, but the Saints is definitely another team. So those teams right now, I would say for sure. Um, you gotta say Seattle because of Russell Wilson, so I will say that for sure. So I'll say those three teams. And Tampa Bay, those four teams, I'll go with there.
Okay. Yeah, I think I gotta agree with them. I couldn't see anybody else. I mean, there's some teams that play well and do a couple of things well, but I could see anybody. I mean, out of who's left? Are you looking at the Vikings and the Giants? Nah,
Mm-mm,
no.
mm-mm.
You
Yeah,
have to have
I
a
would
miracle
agree.
for those teams. Those teams to win. And in the AFC, who you looking at?
Pat Mahomes, of course.
Yeah.
Um, I'm gonna say don't sleep on the Buffalo Bills, man.
Okay.
Yeah,
Buffalo
yeah.
Bills,
Really
man.
tough.
They tough. They dangerous. They physical. They got defense. They got pieces in place, to make a run for this chip. It's
Yeah.
all about matchups. Can they avoid KFC into the AFC Championship game? If they
Well,
can avoid if they can avoid the Chiefs, I think they can make it, man.
yeah, I give them a good shot. I mean, I still think the Steelers are right there,
Hmm.
Yeah,
and
I was gonna say the Steelers too.
I like for some reason. You know what? I think in the playoffs when it comes around, I like Tennessee a little bit. They're up and
Yeah,
down, but I still like them. They're always up and down. You never know which Tennessee team you're gonna get. So
Right,
that's kind of like the problem. I
right. They're
think
going high.
Baltimore might have took a step back.
yeah, I think so too. I like Tennessee, like you said. Baltimore. I don't think they're title contenders anymore.
Yeah, you can't run the ball 50 times and try to win the Super Bowl. It's not gonna work. You gotta pass that ball, man.
Yeah,
So you gotta get a receiver, man. I don't think they can do it this year.
no, no. I mean, they don't even look like they don't even try to disguise it. Like you mix it up, they just go run the ball. I watched a game where RG3 was starting where they didn't even let RG3 pass, and then the receivers when he did, it seemed like when he passed the ball, the receivers were so surprised that they was just dropping the passes.
Right. Yeah, their best receivers are tight ends, so that ain't a good look.
Yeah,
It's not a
that's
good
true.
look. So
Does
Most
that mean
definitely.
that Jackson has taken a step back? You think?
I don't, you know what?
Yeah,
It
I kind
might
of
be
sort of
because
think so.
I think it's
yeah,
possible. Yeah,
Yeah, I agree.
I think that is for all the running and stuff. I think what was his name? This guy's cousin or nephew or something made a point. Brown made a point that about they don't pass the ball or something. It's like a one man show or something. They got to pass the ball, and I get the idea of throwing long passes, but when you throw deep balls, guys got to either have separation or you got to be really accurate. I
Right.
think it would be better to get them going maybe with some short crossing routes or something, or something like that to move the ball. They don't ever really look to move the ball. They either trying to run it or throw the ball all the way down the field, and they only do that about 6 times a game. So
Yeah, Lamar's accuracy can be questioned too as well. His
yeah,
accuracy is not really the best. He those even any route, short route, medium route, it could be high, maybe too low, behind somebody. So right now teams is saying, you know what, we ain't gonna let you run past the football, man. So I bet if he proves that even more, working accuracy, he'll see more and more teams, I guess, stacking a run and making them pass that football.
yeah,
Yeah, I would agree. I think that formula kind of almost started in the playoffs too, right? Where they got exposed a little bit.
I
Like you
thought,
said, team.
I'm sorry,
Yeah,
go ahead. Now, I thought that happened last year when they played New England, where Belichick said, "Nah, pass the football." From that point on, a lot of teams caught on to that concept, and that film study, man, and put him in position to be a pocket quarterback.
yeah.
yeah, that's true.
We
Belichick has
would,
kind of sort of done that to a lot of guys, though, right? Where he laid down
Yeah.
that blueprint to a lot of teams in general, and then
yeah,
other teams just continue to follow that blueprint.
Hmm.
And it's
yeah.
about how do you adapt to it.
Right.
And so
He's gonna
far,
make you go away from your strength. You're gonna have to beat them with something else. I mean, who knows? The Patriots are playing, the next Auburn coach might be Cam Newton.
Right.
yeah, because he may be out of the league, right? This
Yeah,
may be his last hurrah.
yeah.
I think the
Yeah.
guy still has talent, but is he a NFL starter?
I mean,
Because you can't really
he
blame it on the coaching per se, right? With Belichick, that's one thing you can't blame it on and say it's poor coaching. Um, I think the guy definitely still has talent, but I don't know if he's a starter these days. He might be
Right.
a good, very good quality backup, which isn't bad either. But for a guy like Cam, who was like former MVP, um, that's a tough position to be in. So yeah, I could see him stepping away.
Yeah. He's
yeah,
another guy that you could say have questionable accuracy throughout his career as well. He's never been accurate. He has a strong arm. He'll do a line drive in a minute, but that touch over the top of somebody's head, a cornerback's head, his accuracy. Because lots of times, man, he's been throwing the ball on the ground or over, I guess, over somebody's head. So his accuracy can be questioned as well. So now he's getting older, his body's breaking down with little injuries here and there. I guess his pocket presence ain't the same as it was back in the days with Carolina.
yeah,
So he's kind of being exposed a little bit, man. So New England need to get back to running football, man.
yeah, definitely.
But do more screens, man. Help the man out. Do more screens for him. Help him out.
Yeah, yeah.
That's true. Yeah, that's a good point.
So we right now, guys, we back. It's almost there. So we maybe go a week and a half away from the NBA season starting again. And listen, we got a chance to see some of these rosters, see some of our players get back in the game and things start happening. What do we think of the Knicks? We've seen the first preseason game. What are we thinking?
I I think Randall's got to go, but not even because he played bad in the preseason. I kind of like the way he played to to a certain extent, because I still seen a couple of the over dribbling, not hitting the open man. But the reason why I think he definitely has to go is obvious that him and Toppin cannot coexist. You can't bring Randall off the bench making that type of money. Then you might as well get rid of him if you can to get some assets for him, whether it's a late first rounder, second rounder, whatever the case may be. And then I think Alfred Payton. I think he's got to go too. Um, Either that or he's got to come off the bench. But I'd rather actually have those younger guys that they have coming off the bench, like Dennis Smith Jr. They got to. I think they got to. We spoke before about Powell, Rivers. I think they got to quickly, right? They got a bunch of guards, I think, and I think Peyton is kind of like eating minutes away from those guys' development. I don't necessarily like the pace that Peyton plays at. Like he's good coming off the bench, I think, to kind of like settle the offense down and stuff like that. But I I don't know. I think those two guys have to go. I like the way Toppin looked. I think he's got to develop a post game. He kind of reminds me of like a Amari Stoudemire. I heard the Kenyon Martin comparisons too. I could see that. I think Kenyon was a little more tenacious on the defensive end now than Toppin. I
Yeah,
think those comparisons with Kenyon may be due to the jumping ability, the athleticism.
yeah,
So I could see that. So I like Toppin. I think RJ is kind of, I don't know. RJ, we've been like throwing him the keys to the franchise maybe a bit too early. He's good, don't get me wrong, but is he a franchise type of player? I don't think he's necessarily shown that yet. But I like him. Same thing with Mitch. I think we had Mitch penciled in to be like him and RJ, that combo of stars for us young stars. But I think Mitch has got to learn how to stay out of foul trouble. I think he played pretty well, but I think that's why Thibs went with Noel, because he's going to offer that same paint protection as Robinson, some of the athleticism minus the fouls, you know. But so far, for one preseason game, one thing I did notice, I'd say, is I thought they played a lot harder than what they did under like Fizdale. So yeah, I mean, I think they're moving in the right direction. I think they just need to let some of those younger guys play. I think Knox was a little aggressive. I think Thibs seems to be building up his confidence. I like the way Smith Jr. looked. So I think they're moving in the right direction. Still, obviously, early after one preseason game. So, you know, definitely a lot of room for improvement, but I like the way they look so far.
I didn't like the Alpha Payton signing. I didn't understand that. We signing him back. I didn't really understand that for sure. RJ Barrett, I like right now. He's just an athlete out there. He can't shoot right now. He's shooting air balls. He's wild open jump
mhm.
shots. Spot up jump shots. So right now, until he proved that he can shoot, man. So he gonna have some struggles in New York City with the fans. I like Obi. What I saw for so Obi, if he was just baller, he gonna be a baller for us. So I like that pick for sure. Um, you guys know before on previous show, I'm not a big Tibbs fan. Tibbs is a good coach with a veteran roster. The Knicks is not good enough as a team to have Quickly and Miles Powell sit on the bench.
Okay.
You do guys out there on the floor to get some burn. We're trying to build a culture. We're trying to build a franchise up. This team is not good enough to have Quickly and Miles sit on the bench for an entire game. I don't understand that at all.
I
Yeah,
mean,
I would agree. Because one thing those guys do is space the floor. That's one thing I forgot to mention is I seen guys, granted, preseason game number one, right? But I seen guys running into each other, and like the spacing was terrible. Uh,
Hmm.
and Piles and Quickly, they're shooters, right? So they space that floor. You have to guard these guys all the way out to the hash mark, which opens it up for a guy like RJ, right? Who's a more
Right,
of a slasher.
right.
Eventually, I hope RJ develops at the very least a mid-range game, right? But um, yeah, that's a good point, Theo. That I think Quickly and Powell have to get some minutes.
I, I agree with you guys. I think one of the things I felt was strange. I was watching, and I think when Austin Rivers is ready, you'll see him get a lot more minutes because I think he's one of the only players on the team that can get his own shot off the dribble.
Yeah,
Um, I think Reggie Bullock should have played more because when he was out there, he knocked down threes, he knocked down twos. So he's one of the only people that was consistently knocking down any type of jump shot. I think, like you said, RJ and Randall force a good amount of shots, but they're just not good shots at this point or something. I mean, even when Knox took shots, a couple of them didn't drop, but they were still the right shots. Nobody was on them. He was undefended. The ones you kind of have to take. If you miss them, okay, you missed them. But some of those contested jump shots and force up the middles and stuff like that. And I got to go back to what Theo Tibbs is not the coach for this team. I think the Knicks are kind of stuck in this position where they want to try to win, but they want to try to develop too. You got to kind of, pick where you're at. I don't think they have the type of talent to be in a position where they think they're going to contend for anything or whatever. I think they should be trying to develop those young guys and get them ready. And I like what Noel did. He didn't
Yes.
he didn't
Yeah,
really
he
get
played
any
well.
shots. All his stuff was off of offensive rebounds, little screens here, and he hit the boards and defended well. So I think he'll be good to play with Mitchell Robinson to help him out on
Yeah,
how to
I
do
think
those
so
things.
too.
But I
I,
definitely see the improvement. They definitely work harder, and they definitely work a lot harder on the defensive end.
yeah.
But
How
they're
about
really
Frank?
anybody that can shoot or has any type of talent that can make shots should get a chance to be on the court, though. Like some of the guys, like bringing in Alec Burks. I mean, I can't even remember anything notably he did in the game.
Yeah,
He was
me
out
either.
there, but did you even realize he was out there? Like, how did he impact the game? And he started.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
So
that's the crazy thing is you can't trot out a lineup of Peyton who can't shoot, RJ can't shoot, Burke could shoot, but he
Right.
like you say he didn't do anything in first preseason game, but he could
yeah,
shoot. Randall can't shoot, and
yeah,
Noel can't shoot. So
yes,
now you got one guy who can shoot on the court,
yeah.
and then you wonder why RJ can't get into the paint, why he
No,
can't slash. There's nobody who can knock down the shot to open it up for him.
they
That's
actually
why
looked
you
more
need. That's
fluid.
why that's why you need quickly, right? That's why you need Powell. Those guys,
Yeah,
you play with those type of guys, they make it easier for your slashers.
yeah. The second unit to me actually looked more fluent than the first unit.
Yeah,
It's because I think the second unit had the second unit had three or four shooters on it, and the floor, like you said, the floor spacing was much better because guys were taking shots and they could hit some shots.
plus, I don't know if it's just me, but you could almost tell that RJ doesn't necessarily care to play with Randall and Peyton. So I think the energy is off when he's out there with those guys. Um, so I think that impacts him. Noel, he's still, he's new there, so I don't think um, any chemistry issues, anything. But you could almost sense, and even on Randall's end, I watch some of these interviews. Randall doesn't even seem like he's engaged, like he wants to
No,
be there, because I think he feels the same way most of us fans looking at it. He's just keeping the seat warm at this point for Obi to come in. So I
yeah.
think Randall kind of senses that.
Yeah.
Hey, let's talk about the Nets for a second. Now, the Nets are getting their first chance to play right now, but I can tell you, it looks like to me, just from seeing what's going across the screen, that Durant and, and Kyrie Irving and these guys, if there's any indication of who they are and what it's going to be like, they're gonna have a really good season because these guys are just killing. I mean, they don't even make any sense. Like you would have thought just from like what they showing on the box scores and different highlights that nothing's changed from the minute that they left. So if they can play at this level, I mean, what do you guys think the Nets are going to be like this year?
This should be a top three team in the East. I still want to see Kyrie be more of a facilitator because he could create his own shot. So a guy with his skill set should be having like a higher assist per game ratio, man. Because I feel that if you could create your own shot by anybody, you should have an easier time facilitating to open guy when you penetrate, dishing out to the outside for a jump shot. So I like to see not say take a step back as far as scoring more, but just make a more conscious effort of being more of a facilitator. Because the team could score. Dinwiddie could score, Levert could score, Kyrie could score, Harris could shoot, and I even say KD. So scoring ain't an issue. Just attack that basket, put pressure on defense, man, and just facilitate. I know he could do it, though. I just want to see him do it more often.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the only thing I would say, because those guys, Kyrie and Katie are both killers. I think they both have to stay healthy. That's obvious, but injuries are injuries. They have no saying that. But I was going to say, I think Kyrie has to, like you said, for one, facilitate. And then two, I think he's got to stop talking a little bit, which it sounds like that's his intent. But I'm not going to speak to the media. But I think even that, he's going about it the wrong way. Like, I think he's bringing unnecessary attention to the team with some of this off the court stuff. So I think he's got to slow down a bit with that and just play the game. Before the I'm not going to talk to the media thing, it was kind of like throwing the jabs at LeBron. We went over some of his previous statements, but he threw the jab at LeBron saying this is the first time he's playing with another closer. And I think he's got to just stay away from that stuff, focus on the game, stay healthy. And I think if he does that, they'll have a big year. But the off the court distractions, that's a big thing with Kyrie. Can he go a full season without the off the court distractions?
When Kyrie was, I'm sorry, fellas. When Kyrie was the man in Cleveland before LeBron got there, what were the Cavs doing?
Nothing.
Yeah, nothing. Yeah,
nothing. I think Kyrie thinks he's better than what he really is. Maybe he's a great talent, but he's not in the top tier with KD and LeBron and Kawhi, and he might be killing Curry over even Curry. He had his moments, had his chance to be the man for the Cavs, and even be an eighth seed in the East and lose. He couldn't do that. He couldn't win 30 games before LeBron got there. LeBron gets there, you don't even appreciate him. That's why he apologized to him when the man left. But Kyrie, just, he always been different, man. I like Kyrie, but I'm getting kind of sour on him right now, man. With his way, so to speak. But I don't know, man. Kyrie, I don't know, man. I'm down Kyrie right now, so to speak. I'm trying to, be there for him again, support him, but stop whining and complaining and throwing shots. Just take the basketball, man. Play ball.
Yeah, if he does that, I think they'll be all right because nobody could question that, right? Whether him and KD could perform on the court. It's all that stuff off the court.
Right.
And then I know we touched on it before, getting rid of like the Nets potentially getting rid of some of that depth they have to bring in like a James Harden or something like that. I don't know if that's necessarily a good move either. I like the team they have. I think they need a couple of more bigs. But I think those guys are, like you said, at the very least, the top 3 team in the East, at the very least.
Right.
Yeah, I think they will be a top 3 team because I think they got really good complementary players. Like when you look at it, you got Kyrie and you got Durant, but you also have Jared Allen, you got Spencer Dinwiddie, you got Joe Harris, you got Karis LeVert, you got Prince. Then they brought in guys like Jeff Green and stuff like that.
Yes, forgot about that.
So they got good complementary players, and they got a good mix of veterans and young guys that'll help out. I mean, I will be interested to see how things would get in a close game where you have Steve Nash as a new coach, Kyrie already with his statements about there is no coach. How are those? And then you got D'Antoni who's out there with his way of thinking. So it'll be real interesting to see if the game is 20 seconds left and the game they're down 3. Who's going to be making those calls as to what the play is going to be besides just giving the ball to Kevin Durant?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Even though Kyrie has shown he can hit big shots, I was thinking give it to Durant and get out of the way. But I think it goes back to Kyrie, whether he could accept that or not. Because for him, that may be like a trigger. Here we go again, right? He was kind of sort of trying to run away from LeBron, so to speak. And now he may be in KD's shadow over there. So will that eventually cause conflicts? Granted, they supposedly like each other, this, that. But I've seen a bunch of players, teammates like each other in theory before, and it just went south.
Mm-hmm.
So as long as they can stay away from that type of stuff, the on the court stuff for them will take care of itself, I think.
All right. So right now, guys, we're gonna bring on some of our guest, Andre Charles from the PSA Cardinals. Hey, how you doing, Andre? Welcome to the show.
Yes, sir. What up?
What's happening, fellas?
Hey, Andre.
What's up?
All right.
Hey, I remember Andre from It Had to Be. How old is my son? I remember meeting Andre. He probably doesn't remember this. I remember meeting him probably like maybe he was maybe like 9 or 10, at least 10 years ago. And Malali's in the gym. Yeah,
He
yeah.
aged me.
Back when they had that original team, when they had like Shabar
Yeah,
and you had Chris and Terry and those guys.
yeah, man. That 2014 class.
Yeah,
Mm.
yeah, I remember that.
Yeah. Wow, man.
Yeah,
Back to Malawi.
yeah.
Good.
Back to the Malali's days.
Yeah, the Knicks were good back then.
Are they right?
How long ago that was?
Oh man. So listen, I always followed you guys because my son was part of the organization early on and March, and I remember being around you guys. But your program is so much more than just a regular basketball program. I think a lot of people see the success you guys have on the court. They don't necessarily see the things that you guys are doing off the court and understand the information and the things that you guys are trying to present and the way you guys are helping kids in the community and trying to advance them educationally and stuff. So tell us a little bit about some of that stuff, man. Because from talking, I hear you the guy spearheading a lot of this stuff.
I mean, everything we do is a group effort, man. Everything. And I think a lot of the stuff that we've learned just from taking in this experience is that information is everything. We're in the business of information. I think people think we're in the business of basketball, but we're really in the business of information. And when you understand sort of how this country works, everything is a business of information. And we spent 10 years figuring things out, bumping our head against certain ceilings. And if we can make it so that other people, particularly Black people, don't have to face those challenges, then that is the ultimate goal.
That's great. So when I look at it, because I always look at the page and I see the different things or something. How'd you first come up with those little information things, or how'd you guys decide to start doing that?
Well, it comes from taking in just a lot of things outside of the basketball world. I think when I look at the visuals and what stays in the basketball space, right? It's an ecosystem that kind of becomes very copycat. Guys see what other people are doing, and then they go, "I want to do that." Especially if it seems like it's something that's simple and easy to do. A lot of the information that we take in is outside of the basketball world, and so that's sort of what people are starting to see. It's like if you look at what marketing pages look like, if you look at what business pages look like, this is what the focus is. It's on giving you information. It's on presenting these ideas in a way that's still gonna, draw your eye. But ultimately, it's about teaching you and trying to give you some power through that knowledge.
I think for me, that's one of the that's a good segue to one of the questions I had is exactly how much effort goes into that.
It depends, right? Like some of these things, if you look at one of the posts that we did with Jaquan Carlos out of Brooklyn, that was something that we did start to finish, right? So all of the photos are original, all of the copy is original, and the idea was to present it in a particular way. It was supposed to do exactly what it did, which is to frame him in a particular sense. But beyond what it did on social media, it was about showing Jaquan, this is how you come up with an idea, and this is how you see it the whole way through, right? So he was up 6 a.m. We went and we did the photo shoot downtown, and he got to see this is how marketing works. You come up with an idea, you build an outline, and you go shoot it. And that particular project took about, I'd say, a week to do, right? But that's one post. There are other posts that might take 20 minutes, right? But when you see those type of results, our kids buy into this stuff and they see, like, you know what, the time is worth it.
Yes, Jay, I'm gonna ask you, do you still keep in contact with some of your kids from previous years?
Definitely. That's a big part of what the Instagram does at this moment. It's supposed to highlight our alumni, right? I think a lot of times what people do with their social media is the focus is on the kids who are there, right here and now, and we do that with our Twitter, right? That's where the we promote and we market our kids who are currently in the program. But the way to stay in touch with our older guys has been through the Instagram, and that way I'm able to, get them on calls like this, and we'll do Zooms, and I have them speak for themselves a lot of times, or I'll get to interview those guys. So it's a great way to stay in contact with our alumni.
So as far as like with getting people involved and getting the kids involved, how was that initially to try to kick it off to get people to buy into this is what we're gonna do.
Yeah, that was rough. Anytime you're trying to do something that people, that is something you can see and you have a vision for, and other people either don't have that vision or they're not, they don't have access to the things that is kind of your inspiration, it can be hard, especially in this space with sports. It's so competitive. So a lot of times guys go, I just want the number to be high. What's our follower count? And that program has this follower count. How do we get ours to be like that? And they're not necessarily, they don't care what the content looks like. So we had a lot of back and forth on what direction our Instagram should go in and what it should have. And we decided that we were going to not care so much about the number, and we were going to focus on the content. And when it first started, the content wasn't all that well received, right? I think I had to learn that people need to be met halfway, right? You got to meet people where they are. So it was a little bit too far that way. And over time, I think we got better at figuring out what is it that kids want to see? What is it that parents want to see? What is it that, people who want to donate to the program want to see? What is it that our business partners want to see, right? Like we're a part of a Nike sponsorship, right? Like what is it that matters to all these different entities? And then how do we kind of, streamline it?
And one of the things that I love the more I hear about you guys' program is the extra things you guys do. You mentioned like the focus isn't on basketball only per se. I understand that you guys do you guys have like financial literacy training as well.
Yeah.
Can you speak on that just a little bit?
Definitely. I mean, we're in a world where if everybody gets what they want, right, you will have young black men who at a very, very young age will be exposed to a lot of money, right? And it's the opposite of the way it works for most regular people. Most people make more money as they age in life, right? They don't get the bulk of what they're going to make in life at the beginning when they have the least information and least ability to handle it. So if we're really preparing guys to maximize this opportunity, right, we're taking somewhere between 10 and 12 guys per year and putting them into college. And then half of those guys, if all things go well, will be playing professional basketball and will be making over six figures at the age of 21 or 22. At the oldest, right? Some guys will be millionaires by the time they're 19. It's our duty to make sure that they understand this information, right? They have to make decisions that most people don't have to make, and they have the least amount of time to make those decisions, right? When you see yourself on that draft board and you decide to go pro, you have about 2 to 3 weeks to figure out who's going to be your agent, who's going to be your financial manager. And these are really key decisions. And how do you think somebody who hasn't had any of this information their whole life and tell them they got 21 days to figure out who's going to manage their financial life? Like, that's unfair, right? And we'd be doing our kids a great disservice by keeping them in that position.
Yeah, Andre, I'm actually might be a two-part question. I want to talk about basketball for a minute. Have you ever been heavily involved in a recruiting process for a player from your program? And if I was a head coach, what's the best way to start recruiting kids? Should I call you first or contact you first, or should I send like I guess a recruiting letter to start the process of trying to recruit a player that I like from your program?
So you're talking about if you're a college coach or if you're a high school
Yes,
coach?
yes. For example, college coach, for example.
Right.
Should I contact you or should I send a letter per se before I try to, I guess, build a relationship with your player and you, of course?
Yep. So my experience, just to give you guys some background, I am an assistant coach at the 17U level with our EYBL team. Our staff is myself, Munch Williams, Isaac Green, and John DeJesus from Blair Academy. And so from a recruitment standpoint, I've been involved with pretty much every player that has played at PSA because we get them in. The way that recruitment would start from a college perspective is on the EYBL circuit. Typically, a coach will see a kid and they'll have an idea of where that kid fits in their system. And that person will reach out, usually to Munch, to get just an idea of where that kid's recruitment stands, right? Like who else is interested? Where's the kid looking? Do you think that kid could play here, right? And it's our job to give an honest assessment of that, right? If the kid can't play at Kentucky, we're not going to tell you that he can play at Kentucky just so he gets the offer. We want our kids to be in the office, right? So they'll usually make contact with Munch just to get an assessment, and then he'll let them know what the process is and what the best way is for them to start that communication, right? Depending on who is crafting the vision for that student's recruitment, right? It could be a parent, it could be a high school coach, there could be somebody that is involved already and saying like, you know what, this is the person you need to talk to in order to get that process going. And sometimes that's us, but sometimes that's somebody else, and then we'll just direct that person. We'll put them in contact and keep it that way.
Nice.
I think that's a segue to another question I had is how do kids get into your program? What's the process like to join?
So we have two divisions, right? We have the middle school division and we have the high school division. At the middle school level, in previous years, we've had 7th and 8th grade. We currently have an 8th grade team. In that 8th grade team, those coaches will scout, but they'll also use tryouts. And so that's at that middle school level. At the high school level, we don't host tryouts. We recruit the same way colleges do. So the same way that a college coach will get in contact with us, we will do the same, right? We have kids who are on our radar, kids who are recommended to us. We have coaches whose job it is to go out and scout, and we'll make contact with, the key person managing that kid's recruitment, whether it's the high school coach, whether it's a parent, or it may be a trainer, a mentor. We'll make contact, and we'll start the recruitment process the same way a college would, right? Building a relationship, and then assessing whether or not that kid has the qualities to succeed in this environment, because our environment is not for everybody, and we might not actually be the best place for you to be.
So when you go through the process of recruitment, let's say on both ends, I guess they kind of get a vision or somewhat of an experience of what it's like to be recruited on the college level just from you recruiting them on the high school level. So it's very similar.
Definitely, and that's the point, right? The point is that you should be preparing for where you want to be, right? You should be in that mode and have experience. It's not new to you, right? When you're getting offers from schools, and I'm sure you guys have seen it. Kids can often that can like inflate their ego. You can send them in a different space because it's all new, and they think the accomplishment isn't just getting the offer or just being a part of the process, right? And not just seeing it as another step to get to where it is eventually that they want to be. So for our kids, we try to make it, we try to make the experience as close to college so that when you step on campus, you're already ready to go.
I remember seeing a thing where you guys actually were teaching financial literacy during the act in between the games of the program. I mean, I think that's great. How's that work with the kids? Were the kids really receptive to that, or?
Yeah, I mean, our kids, PSA is a very structured environment, right? Which is why I say it's not for everybody, right? When our kids travel, so from the start, we do midnight practices, right? So we'll leave for an EYBL trip on a Friday. Friday morning, we'll usually catch the first flight out, which would be at like 6. So Thursday night or Friday midnight, we are practicing, right? And we'll do a 2-hour walkthrough practice, and then we're hitting the airport. So from 2 a.m. to 6 a.m., we're just in the airport waiting to get our ticket, right? The kids will get fed, they'll do a yoga stretch, and then we'll head out, get on the flight. When we land, the kids are doing another yoga stretch, right? Then we'll go eat, we'll get to the hotel, they'll make their last calls to make sure that their parents know that they're safe and we're checked in and all that stuff. Then they give us the phones. It's no more phones for the rest of the weekend, right? Most kids are not buying into, I got to give up my whole phone for the week, right? There's no video games, there's no nothing. We have an itinerary that's blocked out from the minute that they're in our care to the time they get back. So everybody knows exactly where they are at any minute of the day, right? We have hydration schedules. The meals are prepped based on, health and nutrition guidelines that we set for the weekend. The kids are doing ice baths. They're doing knee wraps. Like, everything is pretty regimented and pretty structured. So when you get to doing a financial literacy course, the kids are like, "Oh, okay, cool." It's something different. And you look at the video, you see there's not a phone in sight, right? The kids are post about it, right? Like, the thing to me that's cool is they wear it like a badge of honor, right? Like, I know what it is, and every year, right, from that group of 2014 with Shavar and Chris and those guys, everybody's been through it, right? The 6 a.m. wake ups to do either the morning run or the morning pool session before the yoga, leading to the breakfast, leading to the film scout, right? So by the time you get to school, there's nothing they're going to show you there that you haven't experienced, and you're getting it on the AAU side. Right.
Now, how long did it take you guys to develop this system?
I mean, it's been pieces, right? So, like, that first group, they probably went through a lot of creativity, right? Like, I remember, like, the first time we did the morning runs, they were way too long. We were in Vegas, it's 175 degrees outside. We probably shouldn't be running 2 miles, right? So those guys probably had it the roughest. So it's been a building process, but there's certain factors that everybody's going through, right? Everybody's had no phones. Everybody's been in the 3 to a room. The travel has been upgraded for some of the newer guys, right? But for the most part, it's been there since we've been at EYBL 17. It's been pretty much the same the whole way.
Dre, I'm gonna put you on the spot real quick, man. I want you to either give me your top 5 all time.
Yeah, we always hit you guys with this.
Always. Or name that one player that has an automatic spot on your team.
So, you're not catching me off guard because we actually debate. Right?
Okay.
You got to win one game, and you got to pick 5.
Yep.
And
right.
I know my 5.
Okay.
So the second question you asked, who's got to get a spot?
Yeah.
Not so you can answer either or, depending how you feel about it.
Cole's my man, but I'm taking
Okay.
I'm taking Shaq Diallo.
Mm.
Okay. Okay.
He's
Yeah.
probably one of the best high school basketball players ever that I've ever seen in my own 2 eyes. But my 5 is probably I'm taking Cole,
Okay.
Ty Jerome,
Okay.
uh, Shaq Diallo. Who
Mhm.
I got? That's my 3. I'm taking Hassan French
Okay.
and who's my 3? This is where it gets.
Mhm.
Today
He said today.
I'm taking Quincy McKnight.
Okay.
Okay.
Today.
Okay.
I'm taking
Nice. 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 Thank you, man.
Like, man, that seemed like it was agonizing, man.
Yeah.
a lot of talent. It's a lot of talent. There's a lot of guys who put in a lot of work to make sure that other kids have had this opportunity. We give all our credit to the kids. Without them, there is no program. They're the DNA. So it gets hard when you got to just pick 5. But I'm riding with that 5. With that 5.
Hey, I mean, I think you guys got to thank yourself though, because you guys are teaching these guys how the whole process works and all the stuff to go through, and they're fully prepared. So there's no surprises. But what that does is that puts more pressure on you as the individual. Like, listen, you know what's gonna happen. You know how this is gonna go. It's up to you to start driving this or what.
That's a fact. I mean, the kids, they put pressure on you just as a man, right?
Yeah.
They constantly want to see you progress. And especially in this day and age, as I'm sure you guys know, this is not, you can't tell kids anything. You got to show them. Right?
Yeah.
They got to see it. They want a receipt of everything. If you're making money, they're like, show me, right? Don't tell me, right? So if you give them information, they don't just want the information. They want to see that you're putting that information to use.
Yeah.
So you constantly have pressure on you to keep evolving, right? Because guys can easily get past you, right? Like I'm the AAU coach, right? You get to college, you get to the pros. What value can I still add to your life, right? They want to know that I'm still progressing. They want to know that all of our coaches are still progressing, so that you can still give them information that they wanted, right? Because it's information that you're putting into your life, right? It forces you to be a better man. So, that pressure is always there.
So in the copycat world that we live in, who's out there running around trying to do what you guys are doing now? Because I'm sure there's people running around trying to wait a minute. This looks pretty good. Let me start doing this.
Honestly, the stuff we're doing now, there
Yeah.
isn't too many people who really want to try it because it's hard, right?
Yeah.
It's hard. You got to put time and care into doing it, and so most people are like, "Nah, man, whatever's simpler," right? So that happens. The other thing is that we're in a business in which most people think the value or the power is in keeping the information to themselves.
Gotcha.
Like, if I know it and you don't know it, then you got to come to me, right? We are like, we could give you the information, but there's so much of it that it's hard to give all of it, right? I can tell you something, and then there's still nuances in the nuances, right? So there's never going to be a situation where we give you all the information and it makes us less powerful, because there's always new information. And we're going to get it first, right? That's what makes us good at what we do. I think the copycat stuff is more like people doing stuff that we did years ago, which, to be honest, is like, it's good to be in a seat where you can see that the influence is there. So it's like people are paying attention, so let's make sure we get this right, right?
Yeah.
There was a point at which people didn't say happy birthday to their kid. Like, they just didn't do it.
Wow. Wow.
right? Like it's the standard. That's a thing that we were doing 10 years ago, right?
Wow.
Um, and so things like that, photo shoots, right? Media day. We see that people take our influence. They may get it a year or two after we've done it, but if they're following the steps, then let's make sure that our steps are ordered, as we say.
You know something? Now that you bring that up, I do think that you guys are the inventor of the combine. Yeah, a lot of people. Yeah, you guys are the. Could you tell us a little bit about that? Yeah, you guys are the first guys to do the combine thing.
Yeah. I mean, what we saw was just an opportunity to showcase our kids directly. And if you build a relationships where you go, we have enough relationships around the country that you can get 50 or 60 coaches to come and see your kids directly and see your environment. It's an opportunity you have to take. But also, we get bored. So we constantly have to do things that keep us engaged in a new and so we've done the combine at the high school level. We've done the non-profit, where you get 50 coaches from different prep schools to come and watch eighth graders play, and just having those relationships. And if you have them, if you've built these relationships, it's your duty to make sure that you give your kids every single opportunity.
Yeah. So when you look at it all and working with the kids and stuff like that, is it hard to get the parents to buy in? Because I know sometimes you get conflicts between the kids, and I talked a month about this. I know from the state you get conflicts with schools. If they stay in New York in schools, they got a different opinion. Somebody's parent has a different opinion. How does all that stuff work itself out? Because I know that could be crazy.
I mean, you're always going to have people who don't necessarily buy in, right? And so we've had situations where the kid is perfect for the environment, but the parent isn't. So a lot of times you're recruiting the parent the same way you're recruiting the kid. You got to know that the parent can exist in your environment the same way, and will work with you and not work against you. Because the other thing is, we're in AAU, right? We're not high school basketball where we see the kids 5 days out of the week. We see the kids on the weekends, right? So you got 2 to 3 days max with a kid, and then they got 4 days to go somewhere else, and you want to make sure that they're somewhere where your message is being echoed, right? We've certainly had experiences where just the plan that a parent or the plan that a coach had for a particular child was different than what we had, and we try to make sure that we get everybody on board, and sometimes that takes more time than in other instances, right? Sometimes somebody has to be in the environment for like 2 years before they're like, you know what, these guys know what they're talking about. I think the other thing is the environment, like the basketball environment is one where people get sucked in by attention a lot. And when you get something that gives the kid attention and sometimes other people around the kid attention, people buy into that more than thinking long term and what's at the end of the road. So you can have a lot of times where people buy into that and they forget that this thing is a formula, right? You're not the first person to go through this experience. You don't have to discover this on your own. You don't have to prove to anybody that you know how to do a particular thing. You can just follow the formula and get a good result. Yeah. Most people are not going to have multiple kids go through this experience, right? If they do, they might have 2, maybe 3 kids. They're not going to have 150, right? 150 kids go through this process, right? We know how it goes, and we see it from a way that most parents can't. And a lot of parents do understand that, but sometimes parents are just kind of like, no, I think I can do this. In which case, okay.
Andre, what advice would you give for someone who's looking to, I guess, following your footsteps, so to speak?
To get into basketball
I guess,
coaching.
yeah, or like have their own program, so to speak. What advice would you give somebody who's trying to do, I guess, upstart or start from the ground up, so to speak?
Um, and what? So I would ask questions first, right? So
Okay,
first, what level are you trying to start at?
right.
Right? If you're trying to start at the high school level, that's different than trying to start at the middle school level. And you're gonna get different results when you start.
Okay,
Um, if you're starting at the high school level, um, the first thing I would tell anybody is figure out what it is that you want to get out of it, right? Because that's going to dictate how you should go about it. Some people want to get into AAU because they want to coach college basketball. That's a different thing than somebody who gets into AAU basketball because they want to make money, right?
mm,
Or somebody gets into AAU basketball because they just want to help kids, right? Our program in particular doesn't
gotcha.
have a lot of turnover, right? Our coaches have been with us, like as a whole. We have probably, if you say 18 or 19 total coaches, I'd say 15 of the 19 have been with the program 6 or more years, right?
Okay,
A lot of other programs, their job is to get guys in and to college. So there's a
gotcha.
lot of so once you assess what it is that you're in it for, then that'll tell you where to start. If you're in it to get to college, then you should probably not start your own program. It may, if you're trying to get there quicker, it may be more helpful to find a program that's in existence and be as helpful to that program as possible. If that's your goal. If
Gotcha.
your goal is to help kids who might not necessarily be EYBL caliber or shoe company caliber type kids, then it's about development. Then I would say find something that you do that you're very passionate about that makes you the best or one of the best in that category. If you do skill development, focus on that. If you have a lot of connections and just get guys into a lot of different tournaments, then do that. If you're very good and personable and can build relationships and you can build relationships with media people, as well as like college coaches, then you should do that. And you can find other people around you to help do the other thing. But that will allow you to have a space, right? Like when we started, what we had was development, and we had a gym, right? We had Malali, and we were in Malali all day, and kids could come and get better, right? At one point, we were just the after school program up the block from the Gaucho. And
Mm,
kids just came up, and they got better and better, and they would come from everywhere, from Jersey, from Brooklyn, from wherever. They would come to the Bronx, be in the gym, and they got better. And we were the best at that. And then we were the program that could get you into prep school. And we focused on that, right? And so I would say start there.
gotcha. Thanks,
Now,
bro. Thank you.
do you guys find it challenging to balance like the attention across all of the kids in your program? Like, have you ever encountered a situation where certain kids in your program feel that other kids are getting more attention, or how difficult is that for you guys?
That's a great question, man. Yeah, that's gonna happen, right? Because this world is catered around attention so much, and people constantly measuring themselves against other people and what they're getting, right? We spend a lot of time making sure that our kids get rid of that looking at somebody else's plate mentality, right? And so it happens, but the ways that we balance out against that is first, we have a lot of coaches. So we try to make sure that coaches at their team are taking care of their team, right? You coach the 9th grade, make sure you're focusing on the 9th grade kid. Coach the 10th grade, make sure you're focusing on the 10th grade, right? And so on. We space out our interviews, right? So any type of media that you're going to see on our Twitter, you'll see that you're not going to get a lot of the same kid day in and day out. It's going to be spread, right, on purpose. We're going to make sure that if you're seeing Kyle Cuff Jr. and Avery Brown on Monday. On Tuesday, you're going to see Will Richardson and you're going to see Simeon Wilson, right? And then on Wednesday, it's going to be another set of kids, right? And for interviews we schedule, we'll do it that way, and we'll make sure that everybody gets seen. Now, some parts of it, the kids just got to mature and they got to suck up.
Right.
You're not gonna get top 10 kid attention, right?
Yeah.
And that's just life, right? If you are unranked, you're not gonna get some of the things that come with being ranked, right? And our kids have to embrace that part of it as well, right? You're gonna eat, but it's not gonna be the exact same as every single person, right? So there's a balance. We try to make sure everybody gets seen, but they also need to understand that the world just doesn't work in a way to give everybody the exact same thing all the time.
I mean, when I look at the things you guys doing, I mean, it's easier to do it from an adult perspective, but kids sometimes don't understand it. Whereas you got guys, like you said, top guys here. All your guys are top guys. That's for one thing. But what happens is, if a kid could come to the realization that this guy's getting attention, and I may not be getting this player this attention, but I'm still going to a D1 school for free. That's where really you got to have people around you that's kind of filling you in as to what that opportunity really is, because the fraction of people who are getting that opportunity, I think that's where some people that's the maturity part where they got to understand, like, you getting something that people all over is fighting for, whatever. And what's it, maybe you may not be getting attention to this guy, but think about all the other people that want the attention that you're getting or something.
Yeah.
So
you getting attention because of that guy.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
The guy that you may be fighting for attention, right? If that's your mentality, might also be the reason why there's 60 coaches at this game.
Yep.
And so I think one of the main things any program should be doing is trying to give kids a realistic sense of the world, right? Don't hide the truth from them, right? Give them the truth and allow them to handle it. And one of those truths is a high tide raises all ships, right?
Yeah.
And so if you have, 4 or 5 players who are ranked, it's going to be hard for any program to get 10 guys ranked, right? So that's not going to happen. We should all understand this. But the fact that there's 5 guys who are ranked, if you're not one of those guys are going to bring attention to you so that you can capitalize the same as if you were, right? Because the whole point is for you to get to college. And once you get to college, it resets itself, right? Yeah. And I think our guys understand that. They can have moments and just being like, man, I wish I was doing X, Y, Z. But I think at the end of the day, they realize it, that, particularly if you're in a situation where you're the 9th man or the 10th man, you're like, one, I'm probably in a position where I'm the number 1 guy at the high school I go to.
Yeah.
So you get your attention there, right? In this environment, you're not the 9th or the 10th guy for no reason, right? So the guy that may be ahead of you, you're like, this guy's also good. But you have the opportunity to compete. And what happens every season, I think one of the best examples of this is Jaden Reeves, right?
Okay.
Jaden Reeves is in our class of 2019. And he was probably going to be, our 10th or 11th man. He's a kid that was with us since 8th grade. And it can be difficult at times for kids to come on the road knowing they're not going to.
Gotcha.
But, Jaden is super mature and just wanted to contribute. It's just like, give me a shot. I just want a shot, right? And I know every year there's going to be a kid like that who's actually going to get an opportunity because there's so many things you can't control, right? One of those things we can't control is James Bouknight gets hurt before the season. So James Bouknight is going to be out at least until Peach Jam. Here's a spot for Jaden Reeves, right? Yeah. Now Jaden Reeves went from 0 minutes to, man, if you just give us a good 6 minutes a game. Right? and you have to have a staff that understands the mechanisms of how a team functions, right? So you'll have a head coach who has an idea of how that's going to be structured. But you need to have assistant coaches who are also capable of keeping the energy of your team intact, right? How you keep guys engaged. Because his 6 minutes became 18 minutes. And in 18 minutes in EYBL is half the game.
Yeah.
Right? So he went from, I'm not going to play this year, to just, if I get on the court at all, that's great, to I'm prepared when I step on the court, and I actually played 18 minutes on a team that went to Peachtree, right?
Yeah.
Playing with arguably the number one player in the country, in Cole Anthony, right?
Yeah.
That type of mentality comes when you give your kids the truth, right? This is the position that you're in, and this is how I need you to stay focused, right? Jaden Reeves ends up going to Dartmouth on a scholarship, right? He played his way into the Ivy League.
Yep.
Because he took his opportunity and he was ready for it. And it came after understanding, like, I'm not going to get everything the same as everybody else, but I got to somehow stay mentally locked in and engaged and do all the things coaches talk about. Be a good teammate, have positive body language, always be helping. That way, when I get my shot, I'm good to go.
Yeah. That's good. Yeah. And like you said, you definitely with him, everybody's coaching everybody up. So next man up mentality.
That's a fact. And give your kids something to buy into, right? They have to trust you based on your actions, not your words, right? So whatever it is that we're asking you to do is based on the fact that we made you a promise. If you do what I ask you to do, I'm going to get you D1. That's going to happen for you, right? And you gotta live and die on that. And I think a lot of times when it gets difficult, you have a lot of people who just don't fulfill their end of the bargain.
Gotcha.
I asked this kid to sacrifice. I asked this kid to do X, Y, Z, and then I really couldn't find no options, and it was like, sorry, man, I just couldn't do it. And we don't have that mentality, right? No matter how hard it gets, I'm gonna find you a spot somewhere. I don't care what I have to do. I'm gonna find you a spot. I'm gonna figure it out.
That's great. What would you say is the wisdom is like the most inspirational point of doing this, man? Like what inspires you to do this?
I think one, I do this with people I love, like wholeheartedly. So my best friends in the world are essentially my coworkers, and then we get to do it with kids that I love. And it's there's the idea that you're not supposed to work with family, and I think we have a completely different understanding of that. Right? You absolutely must work with them, right? And your family doesn't necessarily have to be blood relation to you, but we all have a buy-in into one another's lives, and that's from the coaches to the kids, down to the parents, right? Which makes this, you're going to face a lot of challenges, and if you're doing it with people that you absolutely love and you're a part of their lives, that's what pushes you, and that's what inspires me. Right? That's why we figure out new ways to do something, is because that's what you do for people you love. You keep figuring it out.
So, go ahead, Corinne.
I was gonna say I hate to switch gears. I just wanted to ask you if you've seen the college player from Florida who collapsed on the court. And what is your thoughts on that?
So there's a few thoughts. The first one is, this is exactly why we need to. The first thought was, I need to go harder, right? Everything that we're doing is about those moments, right? We have kids who ultimately are playing college basketball right now because they're tied to a system that requires them to, right? Like financially, they're just like, we can't go another year without this revenue being produced, right? So kids are regularly put in situations that are not necessarily fully in their control, and I think that that's been heightened, right? Given the kids are not being paid, but they're doing hazardous work. They're constantly being exposed in ways that students at their university are not. And anything we can do to give them the power to be in a better situation, that starts with understanding where you are in the spectrum, right? If you don't understand the business of this stuff, you're not going to understand what it is they're actually asking you to do. And you're not going to understand how to leverage that and make it the best situation for you, right? Use basketball, don't let basketball use you. This child collapses, this young man collapses, and he's a student who's already tested positive for COVID-19. So we don't know if these are due to those complications. I can't change the college basketball landscape overnight, but one thing that we know we can do is we can make sure these kids have all the information to protect themselves as best they can, and it's our job to give it to them.
All right, perfect. But yeah, just we can't change certain mechanisms of the way college basketball functions, but we can give as much information as possible. And the next step is, just how do we get these kids in a position where they're maximizing this opportunity, so that when situations like this happen, I don't know how deep you guys want me to get into it, but like, we've been through this scenario before on two ends, right? We've been through, what is it when you're at a basketball function and a child collapses, and then the administrators have to make a decision about whether or not you keep playing, right? That's one. And on the other end, what happens to that student mentally, right? How does the school function? Who pays this insurance bill, right?
Yeah.
How is that student treated, right? That kid is at a state school, right? The state school has its own medical system, right? And when a student gets injured, generally that kid's insurance is either tied to the parents or it's tied to the school. The school will pay the medical bills if it's surgery or if it's care, whatever it is, if you stay in network, right? And usually at a state school, you're in the state's network. So you don't get to decide the care that you get. You may or may not be allowed to get a second opinion. But if you decide to go outside of that medical care, generally they'll say, we're not paying for this. So when you decide, and we've had players get injured, and this is the conversation that you end up having with the school. So my thoughts go to, who's protecting this young man? He's collapsed. We don't know what's going to happen, but when they decide to care for him, what happens next? And what options are available to that person? Because I don't know this kid's financial situation. And you might have to go with what the school says. And what the school says may not be in your best interest. Gotcha. Right? Especially if we're talking about COVID related, right? Because now you're talking about lawsuits, right? What waivers did I sign, right? And what rights have I given away in order to be able to play? Also, with COVID, you can develop things. You can develop like serious injuries or serious ailments to your body that don't go away, right? I got sick, I recovered, but my lung capacity has never fully recovered, right? most people are not signing up to have something happen to them that's going to last them their whole life.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like that's insane to say that because I have to play in order to keep my scholarship, right? I am not aware of anyone who was given the option of not playing this season and still maintaining their scholarship,
Yeah, that's true.
right? I'm not aware of that. So these are the questions that come to mind. It comes to mind when I think about the money side. This is an unpaid person. They don't even get hazard pay. So the person that works at the grocery store who's also exposed in this way gets paid more than the student athlete, right? Whatever we can do to try to change that, to just create and tilt the leverage in the favor of the student athlete, I think is our duty. We know some of this stuff. The other side of it is just how do you learn financial literacy and put it to use for yourself, right? So that if you can say, let's say you can make 10 or 15,000 off of your playing, right? While you're there, you say, listen, I got a social media account and people pay me for ads. They do this, that, the other thing. How do we turn 10 or 15,000 to 60,000 before you leave, right? Just by understanding, like, this is how you can invest in the stock market, right? This is how you might be able to get into real estate. This is how you might be able to start another business on your business, right? These are the things that came to mind when I saw that. Sorry.
Yeah, no, that's great. That's great. I mean, that's really powerful because a lot of people they're taking it, from a much smaller level. But again, like you said, he could have long lingering effects throughout his life as a result of this, and there's nothing that's going to go for him because of that. I mean, if anything, it's going to hinder him. It's definitely not going to be an advantage to him in any way at all.
Absolutely. And the university will say it's not our fault,
Yeah,
right?
and
They'll
I'm
say,
sure they're making people sign waivers and all types of stuff too.
yep, you sign these waivers, and the waiver for most kids, they're just like, they don't have lawyers when they're signing these things, right? They're just like reading it and they're just like, oh, this is what I got to do to play? Fine, right? They're signing these things. They're of an age in which their parents legally aren't having to be consulted, right? So they're old enough where they can sign for themselves. But how many people actually have the information? People don't even read the iTunes agreement, right? Right? Like who's reading the waivers and really understanding that? Right?
Yeah, yeah,
We're
you're right.
all this way. So like I look and I go, when things like that happen, and the fact that it just kind of continues, right? They're just like, y'all want to play the game? Yeah, right. And you got to play the game. Why? Because the TV contract says you got to play the game,
Yeah,
right? But what the other part that people don't know is that the coach's contract may say you got to play the game, right? So it's different when you look and you go, well, the university gets money and the TV gets money, but we don't know that what's in the coach's contract is that if they don't play a certain number of games, they don't make a certain amount of money, right? If they don't win a certain amount of games, they don't make a certain amount of money, right? This is the information that when we talk about like the value of information and being an information business, this is the stuff most people don't understand, right? That you may be going to a school in which what's in that head coach's contract directly impacts your child, right?
yeah,
Why is your child not playing? Because the kid playing in front of him has a higher probability of making an all conference team. And the coach gets a bonus based on the fact that in his contract, it says if I have an all conference player, I get extra money, right? You didn't know that when you signed up.
no, you definitely didn't.
Right? The kid doesn't know that, hey, man, I balled out this season. I made, the all rookie team, right? The kid's like, hooray, yay for me.
Yeah,
They don't know that the coach got a bonus for that,
yeah, that's
right?
true.
So when the kid is like, yo, man, like I just did this thing, I'm trying to transfer, and the coach is like, no, no, no. You can't transfer. I know that's better for your life, but if you just won or rookie of the year, you just made the all rookie team, that means that you're probably going to be preseason all conference next
Hmm.
year. And if you're preseason all conference, that means you're more likely to make the all conference team, which means I get a bigger bonus, right? I get an extension on my contract. These are things that the coach uses to negotiate for themselves. But most people
Yeah.
don't know this stuff, right? They don't know this stuff. So if you don't know this stuff, how can you? Everything is a negotiation. So how can you really negotiate if you only have half the information,
Yeah.
right? How can you do that?
Yeah. You at a decided disadvantage.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And so I think our kids need to learn, not just don't hear this is a business, right? How about we show you the business parts of this? How about we get you used to the business aspects of it, right?
Yeah.
And in a way that it doesn't make you a robot, right? You still get to be a human being, but understand like this is what's happening. This is why the coach is the way that he is. This is why things function the way that they function, right?
Yeah.
That that coach is trying to make this money. And
Yeah.
this is specifically how he's trying to make this money. I'm going to show it to you.
Yeah. But Kareem, you have anything else?
No, thanks for the response to that, Andre. That was definitely good to hear. You know, because some of those points you made, I wouldn't have even thought about it. You know, so some good points.
Nah, man.
Yeah.
Thank you guys so much, man.
Yeah. You have anything else?
No, listen, man. I learned a lot being quiet, man. It's very good stuff, man. Very informative, man. And thank you for being on the show. I appreciate you.
Yeah.
I appreciate y'all having us here, man. You
Man,
guys
with
have a
all
great platform, and I appreciate you guys extending it to us, man. Thank you.